Hey, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. Grandpa coming to you from the living room in Jack's Beach. Sitting here trying to keep my voice together with a hot cup of green tea with ginger. So today we're going to hop into the 24th chapter of the book of Exodus. This is a very important chapter. It says here, the Lord ratifies the covenant. So a covenant is an agreement. And the agreement is what God has spelled out. You do these things. You need to follow these 10 laws, the 10 commandments. And you need to also follow these I don't want to call them minor commandments, but they're a further breakdown of how you follow the big 10. And also some ceremonial laws, how you worship God. And so now he's going to ratify that agreement, that contract. And ratify means to put it into effect. So this is the day that these people become the nation of Israel. Verse 1 says, "But to Moses the Lord said, Come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu." And Nadab and Abihu are Aaron's oldest sons, and they become priests. "And 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship from a distance. Moses alone may come near the Lord, but the others must not come near, nor may the people go up with him." So there's going to be 3 sets of people. There's going to be the greater congregation of Israel, which doesn't get to come near at all. And they don't want to come near. If you remember, they told Moses, like, "Whoa, this is too scary. Like, you go talk to them, and then you come back and tell us what to do, and we'll do everything." We're going to see that that's not true. They're going to mess up starting very, very soon. And then you have Nadab and Abihu and the 72 elders, or 70 elders. And they're going to be at a distance, and then you're going to have Moses. And Moses is going to be like up there, up close and personal with God. I can't imagine what that looked like. So he's got Moses coming up again. "Come on up, Moses." And so now Moses comes down again. So he's like a mountain climber. God keeps making him go up and down the mountain. He must have been in very good shape, because I think he's around 80 years old. At this point in time. Maybe he's 81. He is in Egypt for 40 years. Then he goes to the desert for 40 years, gets married, has a couple kids, and then he comes back and he's 40 years in the wilderness. So he dies at 120 years old out there in the desert. So he's somewhere around 80. And God's like, "Yeah, well, we're going to keep you in shape, but we're going to make you just keep walking up and down the mountain." Moses came and told the people all the Lord's words and all the decisions. All the people answered together, "We are willing to do all the words that the Lord has said." And Moses wrote down all the words of the Lord. Early in the morning, he built an altar at the foot of the mountain and arranged 12 standing stones. Now, this is interesting. I never thought about this before, but one of the things about the Bible as history is that they say, well, back when this happened, there wasn't writing. But it says now, Moses brought down the Ten Commandments, and God wrote them. The finger of God wrote the commandments. So apparently there was writing. And then, but it wasn't just like, oh, we can read a few words. God says, well, this is what these words say, and someday later on you'll invent writing, and this will, make sense to you. There was writing. And so God wrote, and then it says that Moses wrote. Moses wrote down all the words of the Lord. Early in the morning he built an altar at the foot of the mountain and arranged 12 standing stones, according to the 12 tribes of Israel. He sent young Israelite men, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificed young bulls for peace offerings to the Lord. Moses took half of the blood and put it in bowls, and half of the blood he splashed on the altar. He took the book of the covenant and read it aloud. So at this point in time, they've codified the law. It says here that they've made this into a book. It's a contract. And so, and he reads it aloud to the people, and they said, we are willing to do and obey all that the Lord has spoken. So Moses took the blood and splashed it on the people and said, this is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you in accordance with all these words. And this points forward to Jesus when he says at the Last Supper, this is the blood of the new covenant that I'm going to shed for you. So these were animals. And if you remember, this goes back to Genesis chapter 3 and 4. In Genesis chapter 3, Adam and Eve eat the fruit. And so they know the difference between good and evil. And they realize that they're naked, and they grab probably fig leaves. So it's a good possibility that the fruit that they ate, it wasn't an apple. It definitely wasn't an apple. It might have been a fig. It would make sense based on the fact that figs are a big deal in the Bible. And they're a recurring theme. And the part of the world that the Garden of Eden probably was in would be a fig growing region. And so they grab these fig leaves and they make garments for themselves. And God goes, no, see, what you did is sin, and the only way you can cover sin, you can't do it by grabbing something off a tree. It costs blood. So there's animals that you never ate before that never got killed. There was no reason to kill them. They just lived their lives peacefully. Now we're going to start killing them. You're going to be eating them, but also you're going to be sacrificing them. And then, next up, you have Cain and Abel, and Cain brings produce. He brings, tomatoes and blueberries, which is not what God had asked for, because he said you need to shed blood. And then Abel brings animals to sacrifice. He brings the blood, and God is pleased with that, and he's displeased with Cain. But he says, you could do what's right, but Cain's furious. He don't want to do what God says. But he winds up spilling blood, but instead of spilling the blood of an animal to cover his sins, he spills the blood of his brother to create a great sin. And so now we have the blood covenant being codified all the way back, probably a couple thousand years before this is happening. God makes the first sacrifice, kills the first animal, but now it's codified that this is something that they need to do. Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel went up, and they saw the God of Israel. Under his feet there was something like a pavement made of sapphire, clear like the sky itself. But he did not lay a hand on the leaders of the Israelites. So they saw God, and they ate and they drank. That's amazing. Some people think that it was Jesus. I mean, he's God. The Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain." So I sent him down, bring him up again. "Come up to me on the mountain and remain there, and I will give you the stone tablets with the law and the commandments that I have written, so that you may teach them." So Moses set out with Joshua his attendant, and Moses went up the mountain of God. He told the elders, "Wait for us in this place until we return to you. Here are Aaron and Hur with you. Whoever has any matters of dispute can approach them." So we saw that there was, when Jethro came out, his father-in-law, Moses' father-in-law, that he gave him advice to set up this judicial system to deal with mostly contract law, civil law, but also some criminal matters. And so he's saying, okay, don't put all that on hold. I'm delegating my authority to these guys, Aaron and Hur, and you can settle your score, because I'm going to be with God. I don't know how long I'm going to be up there. Moses went up the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory of the Lord resided on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. On the 7th day he called to Moses from within the cloud. Now the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like a devouring fire on the top of the mountain, in plain view of the people. Moses went into the cloud when he went up the mountain, and Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Another theme in the Bible. Reigned for 40 days and 40 nights in the story of Noah. Jesus in the wilderness, fasting 40 days and 40 nights. So next we're going to be looking at how they're going to build this portable worship center to and this is going to be 1, 2, 3. I think that's yeah, so yeah, we have all kinds of neat stuff coming up. Till 32. 32 is when he comes down and finds out what they've been doing. So, anyway, until then, peace out.